This is for Year 10 General Pathway. It is question 6 out of the trigonometry revision on the ClassPad 400. Okay, question 6 is finding angles, and it's finding angles when you don't know what the angle is, but you know what the two sides are. And probably one thing I'd like to write to remind us is that when we don't know the angle, we use not sine, but the inverse or the backwards process to get back to the angle. We don't use cos, but we use the inverse cos, and we don't use tan, we use the inverse tan. The inverse is designated by this small little -1. And when I go into trig on the ClassPad, you'll notice that there's sine, and here is the inverse sine. Here's cos, and here is the inverse cos, and there's tan, and there is the inverse tan. So if I know the angle, I use sine, cos, or tan. If I'm looking for the angle, I use the inverse sine, inverse cos, inverse tan. Okay, here are three parts to the question. Part A, Part B, and Part C. And I'm going to give the answers in two forms, in decimals and degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, I need to do one step before I use the calculator. In Part A, I'm told the cos of the angle is 0.5, which means my angle will be the inverse cosine of 0.5. In the second question, I know that the tan of the angle is 1, which means the angle will equal the inverse tan of 1. So now I'm going to use my calculator. In the first one, it's the inverse cosine of 0.5. So I'll touch the inverse cosine, and I'll put 0.5, then I'll close the bracket. I'll make sure this is degrees and this is decimal. Then I'll press execute, and I get an answer of 60. X equals 60 degrees. It wasn't in decimal form, it was a whole number, so that's the same in this and this form. I've got the one answer, and there it is. Part B, the inverse tangent of 1. Close bracket, press exit, and that gave 45. So X equals 45 degrees. In Part C, I need to do some work. Here is the angle that I'm looking for. I need to label the sides. This will be the hypotenuse because it's the longest. This will be adjacent. Adjacent, hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse. I'm going to use the cosine. So I'll write my equation. The cosine of angle X equals adjacent, which is 15, over hypotenuse, which is 75. Since I don't know the angle, the next step will be the angle will equal the inverse cosine of 15 on 75. So, inverse cosine, fraction, 15 on 75, close bracket, I'll press execute, and that gave me an answer of X equals 78.4630, etc., etc. If I stop after two decimal places, the 3 is small, so that's equal to 78.46 degrees, or in degrees, minutes, seconds. Then I will go back to Math 1. I'll put degrees, minutes, seconds. I'll take this answer, I'll drag and place it there, I'll close the bracket, then I'll press execute, and it tells me that it's 78 degrees, 27 minutes, and 46.9, which will be 47 seconds. And that's it.